can the Emperor take everything we've built and give it to that Duke? How?
What deep? Some new Fremen prophet.
If this Muad'Dib is a religious figure, you can't use direct force. Repression only makes a religion flourish. You'll only end up humiliating yourself.
You underestimate my Sardaukar.
You underestimate the power of faith.
Hello and welcome to Haddonfield Detours. I'm Tawan.
I'm Mark.
And if you're wondering why this sounds a bit weird, well, it's because today we're not reviewing a horror movie or horror movie franchise as we usually do. We're detouring away from Haddonfield Horrors tonight to give way for a fun discussion of a film from a different genre. It'll be a little less structured than our regular reviews, giving into more of a discussion of the films we'll be discussing, but we have prepared some questions to move discussion along. With that said, today we'll be taking a look into the highly praised Dune Part One and Two. Both films directed by Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, Austin Butler, and Dave Bautista, to name a few, in this egregiously stacked cast for a modern-day epic.
Denis Villeneuve's Dune saga is adapted from Frank Herbert's sci-fi novel of the same name, spanning two epic films that chronicles the rise of Paul Atreides and his journey to fulfill his destiny. In Part 1, Paul's noble family assumes stewardship of Arrakis, a desert planet and the sole source of the universe's most valuable resource, spice. After a brutal battle for their lives, Paul and his mother, Lady Jessica, escape into a harsh desert and seek refuge with the Fremen, the planet natives. In Part 2, Paul transforms into the Kwisatz Haderach as he leads the Fremen into rebellion to overthrow the corrupt Emperor and the Harkonnen forces, fighting to reclaim Arrakis and secure its future. Together, the two films weave a visually stunning and emotional tale of power, prophecy, survival, and revolution.
Dune is a property that's filled to the brim with terms and sayings some of you may not be aware of if you haven't read the books or seen the films. I'll give out a couple here to help with the discussion, just so if you aren't aware, you can follow along with us. And some of these may just be a little bit helpful to give a little bit of callback to those who have seen the movies and maybe forgotten some of these terms. So first is Arrakis. Arrakis, known as Dune in the movie, is the desert planet and the central setting of the story that is taking place. The planet is known for its harsh environment and is the sole source for the spice melange, which goes into our second definition. Spice or spice melange is a valuable substance that extends life and enhances mental abilities, and is also essential for space travel and is found only on Arrakis. Next, we have sandworms, or the Shai-Hulud. They are giant deadly creatures that are native to Arrakis that produce spice as a byproduct of their life cycle. Next, we have some of our factions. House Atreides is the main faction that we follow throughout the movie. It is the noble family known by Duke Leto and later his son Paul, tasked with governing Arrakis by the Emperor. Next, we have House Harkonnen, the villainous rival family known for their brutality and greed, who previously controlled Arrakis before House Atreides. Next, we have the Fremen. These are indigenous people of Arrakis who are skilled warriors and adapted to the harsh desert environment of the planet Arrakis. The Bene Gesserit are a secretive all-female order that trains its members in advanced mental, physical, and spiritual disciplines, including the voice. The voice is a Bene Gesserit technique that allows its users to command others through tone and pitch manipulation. We also have the Kwisatz Haderach, as Mark mentioned a bit earlier. They are prophesized male Bene Gesserit who will have extraordinary powers of prescience and mental clarity, believed to unify humanity, and Paul Atreides is revealed to be this figure throughout the movie. Lastly, we have the Mentat. This is a human trained to perform advanced logical and analytical tasks, serving as advisors or strategists. Mentats are needed in the Dune universe due to a historical rebellion against advanced artificial intelligence, leading to a ban on thinking machines and computers, and it led to the development of human mental training. So, now that we have a little bit covered on some of the terms needed to discuss Dune and giving a little bit of background knowledge on the films, Mark, you recently saw the Dune movies, like the newer ones at least, for the first time, some like a little bit earlier in this year, due to your takes on remakes. What were your thoughts on the movies now that you've seen them?
Everyone knows that I am very anti-remake, especially if the remake doesn't provide, add, or change anything to the story. Even when they do, they always fall flat to me. Halloween 2007 being my prime example. But I decided to give this a chance, mostly because Tuan wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing this movie, so I was just like,
I wouldn't.
But also because it's like, okay, this isn't technically a remake. It's actually just another adaptation of the same source material, which I happen to love. I decided to give it a chance, and seconds into it, I was like, oh, I've been missing out. Just on the visuals alone was more than enough a reason to be like, okay, I need to be locked in for both of these movies. And I enjoy them. The visuals, the scale, it's like watching an epic. It's that I got the same feeling watching Dune Part 1 and Part 2, or watching Dune Part 1 that I got when I saw the original Star Wars, when you're being first introduced to the universe and you see how big and sprawling it was, and you're like, okay, I'm in for a big sci-fi epic, and I was locked in the entire time.
That's so real, because I definitely felt the same. I have faith in Dune initially, even when it was like first announced, just due to my love for Denis Villeneuve's films. Like, I love Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Arrival is like one of my favorite movies of all time. Prisoner.
Okay, now that you mentioned it, that was another reason why I didn't want to watch Dune, is because Denis. I love the OG Blade Runner. I did not like Blade Runner sequel. I did not enjoy it. I couldn't get behind it. I thought it looked great. The visuals were amazing. I remember watching Blade Runner 2049 in theaters twice, and I fell asleep both times. I did not enjoy it. I don't like Arrival. Like, it's an interesting movie, interesting concept, but I was bored out of my mind the entire time. So, it being a remake, and then the director making two movies that I did enjoy, and I know I am on an island alone when it comes to Arrival. I know people who love that movie. I'm not one of them. So that was another reason why I was just like, ugh. And Sicario, saw a trailer, never seen the movie. So the director itself didn't give me any good feelings about it. In my head, it was just like, oh, another bad director making another subpar remake. And I'm glad I was wrong.
Never a bad director, but we move. But when I heard that he was doing something, I just been a fan for like all his movies so far, so I was locked into it. But I had also not read Dune. I've heard of the name because like it's such a pop culture thing. It's been mentioned in a lot of other things. Like it's like they have like parodies of it in like Family Guy and fucking South Park. So I've heard of it, but I had never like read the books, known anything of the property prior to the movie. So when it was announced, I did purchase the book. I know I didn't read it initially because I remember I was going to try to read it before the movie came out, and it got pushed back because of like lockdowns and quarantine and stuff due to COVID at the time. So I like took a little leeway before I read it, but then I actually did read it and got to see the movie, and I was hooked from that point, and definitely was anticipating the fuck out of Dune Part 2. And when we got Part 2, like, I was locked in. Mark would tell you, I was posting about Dune like every day on my social medias.
Non-stop. The amount of gooning this man did over Dune when it came out, it was like embarrassing. I was like, sir, please.
I was giving Stan for Dune.
You were giving fanatic.
I was giving everything, like, but that's because I liked it so much. Like, I saw it the first time, like, I was immediately locked in. As soon as I saw it the first time, I was like, all right, got to see it again. And I think I ended up seeing it like 3 times while it was out, because on the Dune parts 1 and 2, but especially Part 2, it's really one of those movies that you got to see in the theater at least once, because it's just scaled for that, like, that theater viewing, like the way that it is watching it. Like, that's one of those movies, like, I couldn't imagine watching that at home, like, before seeing it in theaters. Like, I had to have seen it there, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad I got other people on board too, because I was trying to convince anybody I could to go see the movie, and everybody that did see it really enjoyed it. And I'm just glad that it did as good as it did, because the first one, while I did like it, it was a lot of, like, explaining and, you know, set up for Part 2, which, you know, that's the kind of sometimes downside of Part 1s and 2s, because, you know, depending on the story, if it's gonna like end at a Part 2, or, you know, at least wrap up chunks that we got in Part 1, we're always going to be left like that, waiting for more. And Part 1 definitely did that, which is just, it comes with the territory of what you're doing. But the source material is just so much, and nobody's about to sit, well, I won't say nobody, because I probably would have, but nobody's about to sit through a fucking 5-hour movie in this day and age where everybody got TikTok brain.
Pretty sure we're going to talk about the source material, like, at a later point in the episode, but, like, that's another reason why I was skeptical, because the source material is so much. Like, that first book is so long and there's so many details that it's just like, you don't know. Like, it's hard to know, like, what they cut out, what they keep in, how the story's going to flow. I think he did a good job. But, like, also, after watching it, I'm like, you know what? You could have gave me, like, 3 more hours or so. I would have.
No, for real. Yeah, I would have definitely watched more of it, because, yeah, it was just that good. And I feel it's still going from Part 1 to Part 2. It was definitely, like, a lot learned, but also once we got to Part 2, everything that was, you know, set up in Part 1 paid off greatly. And it also moved at a higher pace. That's one critique that I would give the first one. I did feel that it was a little bit slow at times with the pacing and such, but I also know that's due in fact to the setup for what we're getting into. But now that we got all that stuff out the way in the first one and we got to Part 2, I feel like for as long as a movie that it didn't feel that long when everything started happening, because it was just like moving at such a brisk pace, but not too much to where I'm like, wait, what happened? But at a place where I'm like, oh, okay, we're here now, we're doing this, we're doing that, and, you know, it just kept like picking up at that point until we got to the end. And I think I appreciated that a lot, and that if this was like, say, one movie, a lot would have been lost in that. So I'm glad that it did happen the way that it did. Did you think like pacing was off or anything for the first one, like I did?
Okay, again, I go back to, I was looking at it at the in the guise of, this is that OG Star Wars. It has to introduce us to this brand new world and all of the political aspects, all the characters, all the alliances, and all the rivalries, while also delivering action when and where it could. And it's tricky. If this was already, yes, this is already an established universe, but there are people out there who have never read those books, who have never seen that OG movie or seen the sci-fi adaptation. So you have to go into this. Okay, I have this. There are a bunch of brand new people who are watching this movie and entering this world. So you have to. It's a tricky balancing act. So yeah, there were some slow parts, but I was okay with those parts because there are so many terminologies and names and words and ideas that you need that slow period to understand what's going on. Okay, now I'm okay. They're on Arrakis, and then there's Atreides, and then there's this, and there's that, and then there's the Bene Gesserit. So like, you need time to like absorb those names and absorb the terms. So I noticed it. I kind of, and for me, it helped.
I got you.
So I was okay.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely get what you mean there. We mentioned like a bit earlier, like first bringing it up, the cast for this movie. The cast for Dune was a very stacked cast. Like, just going across both movies, I'll mention some names again. We have Timothée Chalamet as Paul, Zendaya as Chani. We have Rebecca Ferguson, Dave Bautista, Oscar Isaac, Javier Bardem, Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, Austin Butler, Lea Seydoux, Josh Brolin. Like, there are so many big names a part of this cast that, especially I remember when looking over it the first couple times, I'm like, damn, like how much money they got for this cast? Like, because it was like very stacked going into both of these, and I feel as though everybody who was in it like pulled their parts. Like, there wasn't anybody who I felt would have been played better by someone else. And like going into the first one and also the second one, I knew a lot of Timothée Chalamet. I watched some of his movies. Of course, I'd seen Call Me by Your Name and some other stuff, but I wasn't like officially like locked into Timmy as being like leading guy. But after Dune Part 2, and like, you know, we got that one scene near the end of the movie where he was giving the speech to the Fremen. I was like, oh yeah, this is a star right here. Like, this shit was crazy. He was very good. Zendaya was really good here. Besides, like, I would say challengers, for example, this is a big role where she actually got to do something, and it was a little more adult for her. I like that. The rest of the cast is really good. Rebecca Ferguson, in my opinion, always kills it. Loved her in like the Mission Impossible movies, and also Dr. Sleep. Of course, Oscar Isaac. That's my man's. Loved that guy. Even though he had to leave us. But what would you say about the cast, Mark? Like, were you feeling the whole cast? Like, now that you've seen the movies, did you have any thoughts before you seen the movies about the cast?
Even before I saw the movies, and I was being a hater because it was a remake, I still was like, damn, look at that cast. Like, I was tempted to watch it just because Zendaya was in it, because I was clamoring to see Zendaya in any adult role. Because, I mean, at the time, outside of, like, Spider-Man, she was still... Well, even with Spider-Man, she was still in, like, Disneyland and Disney World. And I'm just like, when are we going to see Zendaya do something that's not Disney, that's more adult, that's more...
Well, she did have Euphoria a bit, but I get what you mean as far as like where she was still like a high schooler.
I never saw. I didn't see Euphoria until after I saw Dune Part 2, actually, because I was like, and even because I didn't watch Euphoria because I was like, okay, I did some wild shit in high school, but these kids are doing too much. And I'm not even that old yet, but I was like, I am very uncomfortable. and when I watched the show, I was right. I was very uncomfortable. So I didn't have that. And I hadn't seen her outside of a Disney production. And then when I was like, you know what, I'm going to watch it because Zendaya's in it. Then I was reading, oh no, Zendaya's barely in it. And I was like, oh, the one main reason I wanted to watch it, I'm being told that she's barely in a movie, so there's that. And then I heard that she had a bigger presence in part two, so I was okay. Now I'm getting reasons why I probably should watch it. Maybe I'll see, yada yada. And then she was great. I knew Oscar was going to kill it. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that Oscar Isaac was going to bring everything he could to the role. I mean, it's Oscar Isaac. He hasn't let me down yet. Even in bad movies, Oscar Isaac still brings it. I mean, because, I don't know about you, but I watched that X-Men movie, and
I did
it was
too.
bad. It was bad, but he was good in it. So, which is going... I don't know. It was just more of like... The cast was great.
Yeah.
Now, it took me a while. It took me a while to realize that was Skarsgård and not Jeff Daniels.
I'm dead. Oh, you talking about Stellan as the the Harkonnen leader?
Yes. I was watching. I was like, look at Jeff Daniels. I like seeing Jeff Daniels. And, I'm just watching this, and then I'm watching the credits, and I was like, the Skarsgård daddy? That ain't the what? I was like, wait.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like, that wasn't the Skarsgård daddy. And I look it up. I'm like, oh, that was the Skarsgård daddy. I was like, okay. I was wrong. That wasn't who I thought it was. Okay.
No, that's funny.
But the cast was like Javier Bardem. Whenever I see him in a movie, I know he's gonna bring it. And then Dave Bautista. I love all the wrestling actors. Dave Bautista is like the only one who I actually enjoy in movies. Even like more so than The Rock. More so than
definitely more so than The Rock.
More so than John Cena. But I think post WWE, Dave Bautista for me has the best film career. He is in all these good movies. He has a good reputation with the cast and everyone. So I'm just like, I knew he was going to kill it. Even the lesser known people, I was still oh. I enjoy them. And then Jason Momoa, I was like, at the very least, everybody here looked good. So
yeah, face cards in Dune Universe was going off.
I was kind of skeptical with Timothy, only because obviously my gay ass saw Call Me By Your Name. I also read the book. So yeah, I read that, and then that's kind of all I had seen him in, because I hadn't watched Interstellar. I just watched that for the first time this year. I still haven't seen Lady Bird or Little Women.
Oh, you would love Lady Bird.
People keep on telling me that. I didn't see Wonka until... Actually, I still haven't seen Wonka because I don't like useless prequels. So I had only seen him in Call You by Your Name, and I think I saw him... No, that was it. I only saw him in Call Me By Your Name, so I didn't really know much of him. But then seeing Jessica Ferguson, who, like you said, I love her. I mean, not Jessica Ferguson, Rebecca Ferguson. I love her in the Mission Impossible movies. Mm-hmm. Still mad they killed her off. We could have killed off Peggy Carter instead, but whatever.
That's what I'm saying.
I also liked her in The Greatest Showman. And I loved her in Dr. Sleep. So,
she was so good in that. We eventually got to do that for horrors.
She kills it in Dr.
She
Sleep.
was so good in that, and I had just a little tint. I had I knew of the Dr. Sleep story, that it was a follow-up to The Shining, but I had never looked into it or anything, so I just saw the movie, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, this bitch she kind of scaring me, what the fuck?
Right? She's really good. Without her being that good, the movie falls apart. The movie is her. It's her movie. So, I was all in. I was completely, fully in, and I was kind of kicking myself like, damn, I really wasted time not watching the movie. This movie is good. This movie is amazing. And I was just like, damn, I wasted too much time being stubborn. So the cast, I never had any doubt in the cast outside of Timothy because I hadn't really seen him. I knew the cast was gonna kill it. Which I would say both this version and the OG version both had like actors and actresses that were popular of the time and like pop culture people of the time in the movie to draw it in. But I will say this version has stronger performances from the actors.
Well, since you do mention those other ones, because I will say I'm not seeing the sci-fi one fully. I think I like watched one of those like YouTube recaps of the sci-fi one because I think I started watching it and I don't know, that one was losing me heavy.
I will say for this discussion we don't have to talk about the sci-fi one because it kind of gives us the same beats as both of the theatrical movies. I would say the sci-fi miniseries, the sequel series is only need to be discussed if/when they make Dune Part 3 the Messiah. Because unfortunately the sci-fi sequel series is the only other live action adaptation of that story. I think for this discussion we could just stick to 84 and 2021, 2022.
Okay, bet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna restart that. So
you can keep that in because I don't keep all that whole spiel in.
Okay, that's cool.
Just in case we get a comment. Oh, they didn't mention the 2000 sequel, the 2000 series.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So, kind of going like a little bit off that. What would you? Because I know you, but when I was mentioning the Dune movies to you, like you bringing up the OG movie adaptation, and how would you compare? Obviously, not on a like we're not going to do anything like on a technical scale or anything like that. Like
technical and visual effects. I wouldn't because
we just can't.
The very few CGI shots they have, mostly with the shields, are bad because they were big, blocky, and they look bad. But like they did a lot of practical effects, which still hold up. Like the worms, I think they still look good, the worms, but it's definitely a different style because David Lynch has his own style. No matter what he does, it's always going to be this weird, very campy, very over the top feel because that's what David Lynch does. But his version and his vision was closer to the books than this one is. Like most of the parts that Villeneuve cut out, David Lynch kept in because he wanted to be so close to the books. Which, for better or for worse, he jammed that whole entire book into one movie, which is impossible. Because it's another reason why I was kind of afraid to watch this movie. But then once they confirmed that there was a part, this was the part one of that first book. That's when I was like, okay, maybe I should give it a shot because if you go back and to look at any reviews of the book, any reviews of that OG movie, everyone's main thing is like, okay, Dune books are so complicated. They have so much going on, so much world building, so much this and that it'd be impossible to adapt that into a live action format because there's stuff you're gonna have to like keep out.
Yeah.
And when you watch that first like OG Dune movie from '84 and see how he tried to cram that entire book into one movie, it's like, oh, this is all falling apart. Because I watched that movie before I knew there were books, and I watched that movie. You ever watch something and you think, okay, while this is good, but you can kind of tell that like something's missing, something's not quite right. And that's kind of what I was getting when I first watched that '84 version. I was like, well, I think this is good. I could tell, but like some stuff isn't missing. Some stuff is not right. Then, I did a little research and I was like, oh, this is based off books. I read that book and I was like, oh my god, this is a lot. Like,
yeah,
that book, there's so much going on.
It
890 like it's a lot of pages, a lot of chapters, so much going on. It gives so many minute details. Like when you watch the new version, you didn't really get that many, like, get much of like the side story with the Freeman. But, like, there are chapters dedicated to them, and not to mention like his sister, the sister who we don't really get to see in these two movies. Like,
I'm dead.
so
No, wait. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the little bit of Anya Taylor-Joy, she was in there for 1 second in part 2.
right?
I'm
like,
sorry, that was so funny. She looked at the camera and was like, "All right, I'm out."
right? But like going into the book, there are chapters about her being some crazy murderous like child, and then it's just like there's so much going on in that book, and then there's so much going on in the sequel books, and then when you get to it, and then not to mention all the books that happened after Frank Herbert died and the other people took over. Like mythology is like twisted, and then in those extended books, there are things that are alluded to in this movie, in the 2001 movie, that are then taken and explored and expanded in the extended version of the Dune books. It was just like, it's so much to try to adapt. He tried to do that in that 84 movie, and all fell apart. Because there are certain parts that felt overly rushed. Like, the ending of that movie was so rushed. Like, it was so confusing. And the way they handled Duke's death, it was all very weird, all very bad. Not Duke, Duncan. The way they had handled Duncan Idaho's death in that 84 movie was just like very anticlimactic. Like, to be honest, I don't even think he really died. So it was like the acting was good, some of it was weird, the visuals, like he made everyone look so alien and so grotesque and weird. It just, I don't know, it has a very distinctive feel to it. And you can tell that they were trying so hard to jump on that Star Wars wave, but it was missing George Lucas, sadly. Or whoever directed that second Star Wars movie. That's what they were missing. Because he's the real genius. Don't fight me, people. I'm sorry.
No, I get what you mean, because so when, it was announced that Villeneuve was doing Dune, I was looking into it. Of course, like I said, I picked up the book and I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch this adaptation. Now, I will say that was back in like 2018 or like 2019, whenever the adaptation of Dune was announced. And I haven't rewatched it recently, but yeah, from what I do remember, I was watching it, and I was definitely like, this is for sure a product of its time, and some things in it, especially in mind after, reading the book and stuff, I was like, okay, I kind of get what we're going for, but once I got to the vision that we received in these newer ones, I was like, okay, I think, of course, I'm messing with this more, but I can appreciate that Lynch tried to do the adaptation that he did in that time frame, because while it probably didn't like live up to like its full potential, you can definitely see that the like love for it was there a bit, and trying to like put it together as much as he could, and it just wasn't going through all the way.
See, you say that, but now he disowns the movie.
Yeah,
like,
now
even in re-releases, he took his name off and he put a pseudonym there instead.
Yeah, that is true. I have seen that multiple times.
But also, like, while I won't like talk about or like drag the visuals, like the CGI and stuff, I will say going into this, because I avoided all like promotional material because I didn't intend on watching it, so I was anticipating the first sight of the worm, because I remember what the worm looked like in an OG movie, And the set designer, the production designer, was very much into like heavy phallic symbolism because that worm looks like a penis in that original movie. It looks like an uncircumcised penis in that original movie. It was like, oh please, 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 Denis, please change this, and he did. Now, what came out of that redesign in the form of the popcorn bucket led to content creators to go wild, but you know, who would have known? You know, who would have known?
That was a funny moment.
I mean,
that was a funny moment.
It's a moment that we keep on getting with all these special popcorn buckets that this movie kicked. But you know, that's where we are now.
Honestly, yeah, I feel like that one definitely took, because I had definitely always seen those popcorn buckets for like other movies. Like I got one that looks like Thor's hammer.
Yes.
When what was that movie? Not when Ragnarok came out. I got one for that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing the little Barbie car when Barbie came out. And, you know, little other ones. It wasn't like every movie, but it was here and there. But after that Dune one, I swear, even Nosferatu got a popcorn bucket. that looked like Dracula's coffin, like
wild and just crazy.
Oh, it's so funny. But I did like the design of the sandworms in this one. They definitely give across the board that energy of, oh yeah, if you out there and the sandworms coming, you're fucked. Yeah, when we saw it for the first time.
But I will say, like, reading a book and watching that OG movie, 100% the best decision that Villeneuve made and the studio did was split it into two movies. And it was kind of like,
you're right.
I know it's kind of like, oh, this is what they all do now. They all split them into two movies, part 1 and part 2 for more money. It's like, yeah, that was probably one of the reasons to get more money to like that. Let's get more money out of this. But also, if you read that book, you understand. But this needs 2 movies. There's no way you can fit that into a good like 1 movie and it'd be under 3 hours. And I'm sorry, I don't care how good a movie is. I'm not sitting in theater for 3 to 4 hours. Like I'm sorry. At that point, it's a miniseries.
Yeah, and that was like, and that's really like the only other option that you could have done with Dune is a miniseries. But with that,
which they've done, and it wasn't well received. So
yeah, and I feel like nowadays it could have worked. But I'm glad we got to see the large scale of it in movies, because while I do feel as though, depending on whoever picked it up, you know, if HBO, because we know it's owned by Warner, if HBO would have did something, which we know they got something now with the Dune Prophecy show that I've not watched yet. We know when it does come to big budget TV, HBO can do it right. So if it was to say like HBO was going to do a Dune thing, or, you know, miniseries of the original book, I would have still tuned in, but we probably wouldn't have had Denis attached to it, most likely, because he's not doing TV, he's only doing movies, so we probably wouldn't have been like as good from like,
or most of that cast. Well,
that's true.
I don't know, because most of that cast, that cast has and they're still doing TV shows.
That's true, and I will say a lot of big actors will TV is becoming like, so TV and movies, as far as like, you know, the people in it now, has been like so meshed together these days, because like, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched any shows on Apple TV Plus, but when I look at the cast that they be having for some of these shows, I'm like, can y'all get some of them? Like, they
got Tom Holland and stuff. I mean, but all the big streaming platforms like Apple and HBO Max, even Peacock,
Netflix,
Peacock has some like big titles. Like, so yeah, like back then, you're either a movie star or a TV star. You weren't both.
Yeah, these days it's just acting for anything.
You save me a good script and a good check, people. They are on that set.
For real,
it could have worked, but I don't think the budget would have been there.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Because, you know, it would have been not like a new property, but a reimagined property, so they probably wouldn't know what the outcome would be. Because of course they'll put the budget in when they know it's gonna be good. But also with the way these streamers are, they be canceling shit so quickly. I'm glad they got the movie, because if it didn't do good, I would have been kind of mad if it was a mini series and they started it and didn't finish it. So I'm glad we got these movies and that they turned out good critically and like at the box office. So that part I'm definitely satisfied for. Well, I guess I actually this one to you, Mark, and this will be a little. We kind of went it over a little bit, being that you didn't initially watch them. Did you think that the adaptation that Denis was doing was going to be good, or did you kind of already kind of lean towards it being a little bit bad before you watched the movies?
I was kind of mixed about it because again, like I've watched the other two adaptations and I saw like what could go wrong and how it could just not work. I was kind of on the fence. I was like, no, this could be bad. This could go great. This could be great. Thought I was gonna be bored because that's what I got from these other movies. I was bored, and with Blade Runner and Arrival, where I could recognize that like story was kind of good, I was just anticipating to be bored. I know that he likes to slow things down, miss the action, but those are the parts that I actually enjoyed about this movie. So I was kind of hesitant. I thought it was going to be bad. I thought I was going to be bored out of my mind. I wasn't. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I know some people were saying that they were bored of part one. Now I don't know if that's the TikTok brain talking for some people.
It is.
But yeah, some people were saying that they were bored during part one when it first came out, and especially because this was one of those releases at the time that released immediately on HBO Max and also the theater. So some people are probably watching it at home and maybe not paying as much attention to it as they probably would be if they were watching it in theaters. So that may also have something to do with it. But I didn't really get that. I could see how, just due to it was a lot of exposition and stuff going on there, but sometimes that's just movies. You gotta pay attention to grasp the story,
especially a movie that's kicking off an extended universe and stuff. You need that. You need those slow periods.
Yeah, you do. And with the way that some people watch movies now, and kind of lower attention spans across the board, it's not even a guess anymore. It's just the truth at this point, unfortunately. But some people just aren't really paying attention fully into what they're watching, or if they're watching at home, they're doing so while having doing something else in the background, because I feel like that's just what so many are used to these days. It's either having something on the background while doing other things, or watching something and checking your phone at the same time, which I'm guilty of too, but not for something where I feel as though it's a little bit worthy of my time. If I'm doing that, it's like a TV show in the background that I'm watched before, but not like a movie that I'm pressing play on and deciding I'm going to sit here and watch it. I can have my attention spent about something else for 2 to 3 hours. And we did kind of say that before, but going into the part two after part one, I can also see why a lot of people were more fans of this one, just due to what I felt was brisk pacing throughout the whole thing. And I think it worked out for the better, because if I really had to compare, I would probably do part two over part one as well, just due to a lot of stuff payoff that we got from that side of things after the first one. But I think I liked the build up that we got in part one before we got to the part two, and everything just started paying off.
I feel like you need part one to. You need the slowness of part one to learn everything. You get that big payoff. Like without part one, you don't get the payoff of anything that you get in part two. Like you can't get all the good action and the good emotional beats of part one. I mean, of part two, without doing that low, slow world building in part one.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of a question with that is one person who was all over the marketing for part one. Of course, Zendaya.
Oh yes,
she wasn't really in part one like that. And would you say that was too? Would you say that was too minimal, or it built that appropriate anticipation for part two?
I went into this knowing that she didn't have a big part in it, but if you go based off the marketing, I thought she was going to be front and center, and also because I know the movie. I mean, I know the book. So I know who that character is. I know the character's importance to the overall story. I was kind of expecting more, and also it's Zendaya. She's currently the star. So I was just like, okay, we need more. Okay, it's gonna. I know what's gonna happen here. But then to get it, and then I'm like, oh, she only in 3 scenes, and they're all flashbacks, and I was like, what is this? But I feel like that goes back to what I was saying, is that you can't have the slow world building without the build up and without the payoff in part two. Because it's planted seeds in part one, and then when you finally see her in part two, it's like, It only would have been a letdown if her presence and her role in part two was a letdown. That's the only thing.
That's true.
And I take it back to Star Wars. Once again, we didn't see the Emperor in A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back. We didn't see the Emperor until part 3, and when we finally saw him, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I get where he's the big bad. Now I get where he's the Emperor. Now I see why he's over Darth Vader. You need to give us a little, then it has to pay off. And I think it paid off. I think, they overhyped her presence in part 1 because it's Zendaya, she's in Spider-Man, she's in Euphoria. But I think that was good, because it made us want more. And so when we finally got it, it was like, okay, cool. She's doing good. That was just me. I know other people were pissed off.
I definitely agree, because when I remember when, of course, it's first announced and everything, that she was in it, I was like, oh shit, Zendaya, because everybody loves Zendaya. What's not why you can't not like her? She's very likable. But when I was watching part 1, I was like, okay, when is she popping up? And I'm still watching. I'm like, all right, when she popping up, and then we gotta get near the end, and I'm like, oh, damn, the movie over. I was like, what the fuck? Because I was more so confused because I was following the press tour for the movie too, and she was in all the interviews and everything, and I'm like, all right, well, where the fuck was she in the movie? But once we got to part 2, it built up. I got it, and also I did read the book as well, so I knew she played more part in the second end of the story, anyways. So it was kind of to be expected a bit that for what they were doing, at least in this adaptation, that she wasn't going to be as prevalent, which was fine for part 1. But yeah, but once we got her in part 2, I felt that it definitely built that anticipation, because if you did watch the first one before the second one and going into it, and you probably were wondering who is this girl, what is her, why is Paul seeing her, what's her purpose? So it gives you little nuggets to store in the back of your mind. So once it starts to get that payoff, again, part 1, part 2, once you start to get that payoff for this character, and the second one is okay, I see what we're doing here, and it may probably made somebody want to come back because they maybe want to see like, oh, what's going to happen now with this. So I think it was very appropriate for what they were going for here, and that was a good choice in doing so. And I feel as though that anticipation was appropriate, and that Zendaya, when she did have the ample screen time that she deserved for Channy. She did.
She delivered.
She did really good with it.
She delivered. Once we finally got her, she delivered on what we all expected from her.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One part in these movies though that it did get talked about, but I feel as though kind of falls back a little bit in regards to discussion is the sound design and score. I feel as though Hans Zimmer did really good with the score in this movie.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah,
I didn't know who was scoring the movie. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But from that first sound, that first piece of music that we hear, I was like, "Well, that's Zimmer. That's Zimmer." And I watched the whole movie hearing the sounds, hearing the motifs, hearing the themes. I'm just like, this gotta be Hans or somebody who's doing a very, very, very good aping of Hans. I'm like, it's either him or someone who is like obsessed with him, and then the movie ends, I'm watching the credits, it's Hans. I was like, I knew it had to be him, because I'm not big on movie scores. I'm just not. But there are certain composers that you hear and that you just know if you watch a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the Dark Knight trilogy. I liked Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I love Dunkirk. I love No Time to Die. I know those are all Hans Zimmer. So you pick up on things like shit. I love The Lion King. He did that one too, the original, the '94 one, not that photorealistic thing.
He did do the recent one too. Funny enough,
he did. I haven't seen it.
Mufasa.
Oh well, I'll probably have to watch that one. But I know Hans when I hear Hans. It's only him and John Williams who I can spot just by hearing one or two notes. I knew it had to be one of them, and I was like, that got me even more excited. So when I first hit play, all I knew was Zendaya's in it. I knew who was in it. I knew the director. And that's it. Well, I didn't know everybody was in it because, again, I thought I was watching Jeff Daniels most of the fucking movie. So, but I kept getting surprised, and then hearing that Zimmer score was another this is already giving it 3 notches above that '84 movie. That's because you got Hans in it. And I was like, damn, you got a Hans. I love the music. I feel like it's each scene was perfect. The music, the visual effects is one thing. The visuals plus the music plus the acting was damn, I wish I would have saw this in theaters. Just to hear the score on those big Dolby Atmos, I missed out.
It came together really good with the music. I was definitely listening to that score a while after seeing it. I really enjoyed it, and just the score plus the sound design in general, the way that they made the voice sound when people were using it, that shit was scared the fuck out of me. Especially hearing it in the theater, that just sounded crazy. When I heard that, especially when Rebecca Ferguson did it, her scary ass. That sounded crazy. The sound design of that, the way that the worms, the sounded when those are coming through, I gotta keep glazing the movie because everything was just so good. All the sound effects or everything was really good when they were using those little beacons to kind of get the sandworms to come to them, all that like added up really well, and I don't know what else I could imagine for like the sound of Arrakis and the movies in general, based like besides what like kind of Hans Zimmer gave us with this score. Like it just fit, and I don't know how else to put that, but it just worked for like the for the setting. And bro, he deserves his props. Like every time you put him on something, he delivers. Like in any movie, like he always going to deliver with this stuff. And I think that's it's just like all this stuff was like really held up over time. Even in movies that he's been attached to, where they may not have been the best movies, I bet you his score is going to be good.
Look, like the movie could be. That score tricks you thinking you watch a masterpiece, because Hans is killing it. I have watched movies that Hans Zimmer has scored, and I'm just like, how is this the same movie? Like, how? Why is the score giving me one thing, but then the movie is like so bad? That's Hans Zimmer for you.
No, that's so funny. So we went over the, our thoughts on the movies. We went over the score, visual effects, a lot of that stuff. I think one last thing before we get into a little bit of fun questions that I kind of have for us is what is in regards to the story of Dune overall, why do you think it's kind of remained relevant all this time, including now? Like now that we got this reimagining and everything.
Oh, that's easy, because fans of the books who grew up with those books when they first came out, he trying to make the movie. He trying to make Dune. Like George Lucas has said that most of his inspiration for Star Wars was the Dune books, and
that's true. Even
down to the Jedi powers, the Jedi mind trick being the voice from Dune.
Basically, yep.
So it's like. That's why it's inescapable. I mean, when you watch Matrix Reloaded, when you watch parts of The Roadrunner, like most of those, some of those sci-fi movies out of like the mid to late 70s and the most of the 80s are all just aping Dune. They're trying to recreate a book from their childhood and just stamp their own uniqueness on it. That's why it hasn't gone anywhere, because people keep making the movie. They keep making Dune and just call them something different. That's all it is. So it's never going to escape when you have all these other great movies throughout history are trying their best to make their own version of Dune.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you definitely make a good point. It's funny you mentioned that, because I, as someone who frequents the Twitter and all that stuff when movies are released, I definitely saw a lot people who probably never read the books or knew that this was based off books were comparing things that happen in the movies to other properties, where I'm like, this book came out in the 60s, bro.
This book came out this book came out when George Lucas was making American Graffiti before he even knew what a sci-fi project was. So
I'm like you can't compare. Well, wait, now I'm saying that you can compare, but remember what came first.
Please.
And a lot of people definitely had to be reminded of that fact and certain points that came about. And I will agree, you make a good point there about the not reimagining of the source material, but using parts of it so that where others have made their own products out of it. Yeah, so that's definitely a good way to put it there. And in addition to what Mark mentioned, just the general thing in Dune is that we got kind of the good versus evil, but also it's not even just that. It's it's just a lot of intricacies within the story of the political side of it all, people trying to, go against, like, quote unquote empire, that type of thing. So those type of motifs are always going to be around in like sci-fi, and then also like partly in like real life, or how people want to like see it for that. So those type of motifs are just always going to exist, and seeing it in like movie or reading it in a book is always going to bring about a sense of like, how can I apply this to the real world, or how can I, as Mark mentioned, use this to craft a story for my generation or someone else to understand. So I kind of like that we are still keeping it afloat, and that we have this modern adaptation for a lot of like newer fans to get into it. Maybe because every time a book is turned into a movie, it gets a lot of people to read it and they're interested. So you got a lot of that stuff going on too, which I'm always like a fan of, because it brings more people into it. And kind of like how Mark mentioned, you probably might bring over another like George Lucas or something, because they watched this movie or read the books, and they want to craft their own story with some of those motifs and themes. So I think that's really good. I did have a little bit of kind of like fun questions to ask, but before that, anything else in regards to Dune that you wanted to discuss at all, Mark?
I just want to go back to, because I kind of just glossed over the sci-fi version. Like, the book is so big that your first thought would be, let's do a miniseries. But you don't get the same budget you would. And that miniseries showed that without the budget, you don't get the good actors, you don't get the good visual effects, and it kind of just becomes a boring space opera, and you can't do much. So, like I'm getting, like, while a miniseries, well, you just gotta have faith. And I feel like everyone had faith in this project, and it went well.
I think overall, like, with like everything in a neat, like, obviously like a little bow, I really am glad that Denis took over this, because I probably wouldn't have been as interested to look into it when I first heard it was him, which that's just me glazing Denis, but also now that he's done it, like, I wonder, like, would there have been any other director you could have seen bringing this to life right now?
Honestly, okay, this is gonna be crazy, because I know people hate the Star Wars movie. Actually, not him.
Other
Rian
dude.
Johnson.
Oh, I know you're talking about
Rian Johnson. I liked his Star Wars movie, and it's weird. It's crazy.
I did too. I like The Last Jedi.
Thinking of the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, my favorite movies are the ones that are the middle ones that aren't directed by the person who directed the first one and the last one. They gave you something different vision. Like, I love The Last Jedi, and I love Empire Strikes Back, because those directors gave us a different visual and a different vision and just different everything. The directing was better, the story was better, the characters had more things to do. So I think Rian Johnson would have killed it. But also, this is going to be crazy, but I kind of think James Gunn, not James Gunn, the other guy, what's his name? No,
Cameron?
Not James Cameron, please. I would only want James Cameron to take over to do Dune if that means that he left those stupid blue aliens alone. If that was a guarantee, then sign him up. But no, the guy who did who started the DCEU, Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder? Oh my god!
Zack Snyder would have gave us a darker, grittier version, and I kind of want to see what a balls to the wall, crazy, action-packed, murderous Dune would have been like. But for like a good visual, like a good Dune movie on par of what Denis gave us, I think Rian Johnson could have pulled it off. If I want something on a different
Okay,
spectrum, then
if for what you're if for what you're saying, if it was Zack Snyder,
oh
he
no
could
no no no
not
no
write the
no
movie.
no.
We need a different. He could only
You said
do
director.
the visual.
That's
Yeah, I know, but you know, he one of those people when he on the movie, he try to write and
no.
direct. Like, nah, we can
No.
give you a writer's room.
No, Warner Brothers,
bucko.
please lock him out the writer's room and just be like, we'll call you to the set when it's time to direct. Now, director, yes, go balls to the wall, give me a completely different. I feel like his version would have been hyped up and like very somber, very like those battles would have been so much more gruesome. Which is, if I wanted that, that's where I would have went. He can't write though, just direct. Just let him direct. I feel like Ryan Johnson would have been on par with Denis, but it would have been like a different like style, different kind of tweak, which I would have enjoyed. No J.J. Abrams, because these are J.J. Abrams, and Paul would have been a MacGuffin. It would have pissed me off. Because J.J. loves a mystery box. Don't know how to, but don't like to explain it.
You know, I do. No, I do like the Ryan Johnson pick because I also did like the Last Jedi, and the thing is, I'm not like a Star Wars fan, so any other like all the other like intricacies of this shouldn't happen. Whenever I start hearing all that, I'm like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Like I don't care about the movies like that.
I'm a Star
Wars
Wars
story.
fan, and I listen to the movie review podcast who reviewed all the Star Wars movies, and like by the time they get to the prequel series, they're all, that's not how the Force works. The Force doesn't do that. I'm like, but you know, George Lucas made the movie, so I think he can decide what the Force does. Like, once they start getting all crazy, like, oh my god, the Sith, they don't do this. I'm like, people, I'm a fan, but I don't care that much. Like, y'all may let it go, please. But like,
yeah, like that was me. Like I'm not really a fan, so I didn't care that much. So it was like, I like this movie. I think, and it like little tangent. I think the only thing that should have been taken out that movie was them having what's bro name Finn
Rose and the whole casino scene. Take all
Rose
of that out
on that planet, like that. Take all that whole part of that movie. Like why they put them they put them on a whole different planet for the whole movie
just for her to be
shit, basically
just
that
for
whole part
J.J. Abrams to drop
out.
her in the next movie.
Yeah, like all that part could have been taken out. That part bored me, but the rest of the movie though,
but what about you?
I was
like,
in it. Like I was in it.
Who would you think outside of Denis could have directed this movie?
I know, and I was thinking it too as you were.
Yeah, but like, give me
like
someone who you think would be on par with Denis, who would give us the same kind of style but do something different, kind of like how I picked Ryan, but also give us like some random, like out of the box pick, like I did with Zack Snyder. Dead or alive, actually. That broadens your horizons.
Yeah, shit. It's hard to think about because like it's so many, and I'm trying to think, especially for like who would follow in the same of like. Denis'
how you gonna pose the question but not have an answer for yourself?
Hey, I posed it for you at first, but let me see. Because I'm trying to think of who would be good at doing like a bit of like world building and stuff at the same time in regards to it, and you know, okay, I'm gonna give my out there pick first, and I think I'm gonna say the Russo brothers who did like the Infinity War, Endgame, and the Captain America Winter Soldier, just because.
You say it's out there, but like I kind of thinking of like Endgame alone, like that was decently shot, like the visual effects, the direction, the that was good.
The only reason I would say them is because like they were able to weave together all the shit from all the MCU movies from the past like
10
however
years worth
many
of
years
content.
to craft those two. Yeah, to like 10 years. We have 10 years worth of content, TV shows, like 20 plus
Characters
movies
and
everything,
that they had never even
and
worked
weave
with
them
before.
into
So
yes. And weave them into one like cohesive little story across those two movies. So I think they could probably do something with Dune, especially with how big the like how big the lore and everything is. I feel like something could be weaved together there. Now, I don't know. I don't think I have another pick in my head that I can immediately go to. I think right now it'll be just... Actually, you know what? No. Fucking Matt Reeves. He would be my
He'll be on
other
par
pick.
or out there.
I think he could
Okay,
be
good.
on par with
If you
Denis.
said the other one, I was gonna go
And
crazy because I definitely think Matt Reeves could deliver. That Batman movie was amazing.
I think he could be the Batman movie, but also the Planet of the
Right?
Apes movie.
And you know what's crazy? I watched the Batman movie, I was like, who the hell is Matt Reeves? I'm like, this ain't Christopher Reeves. Like, who is this man? And I had no idea he did some of the Planet of the Apes, and I was like, oh, I actually like him. So like, I think that's a good pick because the Batman was like, it was shot nice. Like some of those scenes, like all of that was like gorgeous.
And then it would be different too, because like, yeah, the Batman mostly was like all at night and stuff. So switching it to Dune, giving it more of that brighter feel. I feel like it would be a bit different. But like, yeah, the Planet of the Apes movies, they were all directed like very good and did excellent world building. Especially given that first movie for Planet of the Apes, that one was the one that had James Franco in it, the 2011 one, like that one wasn't that good, but Matt Reeves came in at the second one and the other one to do the sequels, and all those were great, and they did really good, and I'm glad that I'm glad that he came in and did those two, because the first one could have been but once he did the sequel, which was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and then I think it was like War for the Planet of the Apes, those were really good. So I think Matt Reeves would be up there for me, and I think he could do something good with it.
Matt Reeves is a good. I feel like when you watch like the Rian Johnson Star Wars movie, and when you watch Matt Reeves' Batman movie, you can kind of see like they have good visual style. They know how to do. They're good with lighting. They're good with setup. They're good like their set design. They have good set design. Even with the Knives Out movies, like you can see that he picks the right people around him.
He
so
does.
It's just like,
good with that.
I would trust him with this. I would have to, I'm pretty sure we would have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the movie, and would also have probably some other friends of his running around on the set. But that's fine. That happens all the time. I'm okay with that.
All right. So for like a bit of fun questions, would you try to ride a sandworm in the Dune universe?
I will say we saw more of it in the '84 movie, but it looked bad, and it looked. If we were in the '84 movie with those sandworms, I would be like, yes, because that looked less scary and more fun. But these 2021 sandworms, there's no way in hell you would catch me on one of those. I wouldn't. There's no way. Like, cause I know I'm clumsy. I would fall and then immediately I'm gone. Like, how? No, I'm not a daredevil. I wouldn't be up there. I'm so sorry. It looks fun. I'm pretty sure you'd be up there and I'd be watching you from ground level.
See, if it was just given the fact that I could do it without no qualms, because I'm a big boy, so I'm probably ain't jumping far. But if I could get on there for the one time, I would. But no, actually, you know what? One thing that took me out, and I also like how they did show this in the movie, because I'm pretty sure we were all wondering in part two how everybody get on the sandworm at one time like
did
that.
Y'all trach it? Like,
Because like they had a whole like fortress on there
Like,
for Lady Jessica and everything.
Was
She was sitting on top
was
of
it
it,
sleeping?
pretty. I'm like,
Y'all
huh?
a tranquilizer dart? Like, what's happening? Is this like y'all capture this thing at birth and y'all raised it? Like, I actually.
I think Denise said they did. I think he said they didn't show that on purpose.
I'm not showing it now. I got questions because how is. Okay, okay.
Oh shit. Okay, would you try spice?
I'm down with trying anything once. Get me at a good party, and I'll probably.
You try a little spice.
And if you're being real, you'd probably be the one to give it to me at a rave or some shit.
Hey, y'all heard that new shit called Spice?
Like, come on, Mark, we gonna be at the rave, you know. Me and my homegirl, we gonna do it. You wanna do it with us? I'd be like, you know what, yeah, sure. Because, do know fact, people, peer pressure doesn't really work on me because 9 times out of 10, I already want to do it. I'm just waiting for a little like push in that direction anyway. All it takes. So yeah, I probably would. And I'd probably be with you. So yeah.
All right. Last one that I had was, what faction do you think you'd be a part of in like the Dune universe, or like what role in the universe you think you would play if you were in like Dune? So the factions, we got like House Atreides, the Harkonnen, the Fremen, or you could be a part of the Empire.
All I know for sure is I can't be one of those math peoples because I don't do math. Like, I'm so sorry, I'd be gone.
That's funny because I feel like I would be one of them.
I couldn't.
That's what I feel like. I feel like I could be a mentat.
I couldn't be a mentat.
I feel like I could do
too
that.
Too many numbers. I would want to say I've been a Jesuit, but like you're gonna be a woman for the most part, so I couldn't do that. So if I had to pick,
you could be the Messiah.
They don't want that for me. I'm fucking everything. I think for me, I would either be a Freeman or I think I'd be a Freeman. But that's more on par. That's more on par with me. I still wouldn't be doing all that sand worm shit, but I'd be out there in the sand, you know, what I gotta do. Or I'd be one of the doctors. The doctors. I think I could do that. Yeah, I think one of those two. Why are you over there doing math and shit?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd be a mentat if I was in the universe. Like, I think I would do that job because, like, basically you're just a human computer at that point. And yeah, I feel like I'd do that, or I'd be Duke Atreides' lover.
Can I do that too? You know, him and Duncan can trade you. They can go back and forth. I'm okay with that.
Leto. Yeah, I'll be Leto, Duke, whoever. They need lovers. They need lovers like, on the side.
Like Duncan get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I get the other one the Wednesday, Thursday. Like, and then we can all have fun Saturday and Sunday. I don't even care to me. What's it go for?
Oh shit! But yeah, that was all I had, and I think as far as this little detours discussion went, I think this was really good. Should we let the fans decide if they want more of these?
We do more of these, but I was kind of thinking like, what would be the next movie you'd had in mind for us to do?
I don't know, actually. Well, I feel like, I mean,
this is your baby. Like, I have something in mind, but I'll save that. I'm following your lead.
Yeah, I don't know just yet. I feel like Dune first came to mind just because me and Mark we had talked about it a lot, and I finally got him to watch him, and then he loved it. So I was like, damn, like I wish we could talk about it. But I'm like, why not? We could do, a little one-off.
Keep it in that vein. I just watched Interstellar for the first time, and I've already seen it. I've already seen it like 3 times. Oh, I feel like I'd be up for a long discussion on Interstellar because there are so many things. There are so many things I still have questions about that I still need to like talk through because it's stuck in my head and it's pissing me off.
That's true. That could be a good one. Yeah, I think if we do another Detours, I think Interstellar would be a great second.
I would also be down for like if we like other like random movies like I had something in mind but I forgot.
I guess since we mentioned it a little bit, maybe like I don't know, the Planet of the Apes.
I would love to watch those. I would need to rewatch some of those, but I'd be down for those.
Yeah, we just wanted to stretch something out a little bit, give something else to you all. These won't be like replacing what we're regularly doing, just be little additions here and there. But yeah, we just want to kind of, branch off slightly and give like we said, like a little detour. So, just so we're keeping in tandem with Haddonfield and to stay a little bit on brand, we are going to keep our cash pass for the detours as well. So, Mark, will you be cashing Dune Part 1 and 2?
I would. As someone who was skeptical going into this and took a while, I took a while to even watch it. This is a complete cash from the visuals, from the set design to the CGI, some of the practicals, the acting. Hans Zimmer alone gives it a cash. This is 100% cash. Like, buy this on digital, buy physical media, because not to go on a tangent, but like these streaming services are kicking shit off the sites left and right. So yes, spend the cash. So spend the cash to either buy it digitally or to buy the physical copy. Like you need, like this is a good movie. This is a great movie, and it's a cash. I'm probably gonna watch it again. Like I'm probably also gonna watch the HBO Max miniseries. And
yeah, I gotta check it out. Also,
I need them to make Dune Messiah because there's so much in that book. I don't know if you read that book.
I've not read Messiah yet.
There's so much in that book.
I've heard a synopsis and basically what he turns into, and I'm excited to check it out.
Yes, and it's 12 years into the future, and a lot happened, and it's just they would probably have to do some recasting or do some like aged up CGI. But like I need them to make a third movie because these two movies lock me into the universe.
It's confirmed though.
It is?
Yeah, Dune 3 is happening. It's supposed to come out. That's also why 2026 is supposed to be good. It's coming out 2026.
But have they confirmed casting? Because this is set 12 years into the future. So are there going to be? Are they recasting? Are they going to just put some aged up CGI?
They haven't said, but as of now, mostly it looks like everyone is kind of coming back so far.
Only person that needs to be there really is, I don't want to spoil it, but only person who really needs to be part of the third movie is, well, actor wise, is Jason Momoa. Outside of that, it's like, okay, what are we going to do with the old people, with the other people?
Yeah, but it is confirmed that Denis is doing it, though.
Okay, cool. Well, so this is 100% a cashing then. 100% cash. So, I'm down for that. What about you?
Well, if there was any questions, I will definitely be cashing Dune Part 1 and 2. I liked it so much, I wanted to talk about it on here. But I really think these movies did a really good job showcasing this world of Dune, especially one that I wasn't aware of at the time when the first movie came out. I'm very glad that it got the adaptation that it did, and was also just it received very well because it was received very well on both fronts, like critical and also audiences, and I think it's very much deserving of that, because Denis, like, he's always, like, all his movies have been like very well received, but this one's probably like, these two are probably like his biggest, just due to it being, you know, part of a known like product already of Dune. So I'm glad to see him getting like his flowers as well, because I know Mark, you know, he wasn't that into the other movies, but I pretty much like all of other, like, Denis' other movies, and he's been a good director since like the first movie of his I saw, Incendies. So I think he's just done a really good job with the films that he's picked and all of that. And I think everybody a part of these movies just did a really good job in bringing it to life. I think this movie for me definitely proved that Timmy is up there as far as, like, you know, new age leading guys. That one scene alone when he was like giving the speech to the Fremen to like kind of like get them on his side, essentially. That scene was crazy powerful. That was a really good scene. Austin Butler did his thing in this movie. In the second one as Fade Rauta, he was really good. Everybody did great. Zendaya, everybody. So I think is definitely deserving of like his flowers, and I fully give a cash to it. And with that, we have our first episode of Haddonfield Detours. So we hope you guys enjoyed this one. We know it's not, you know, the usual like horror discussion, but we hope to give some more of these in the future. Definitely let us know on like our social medias if you guys like this episode, want to see more of these. We definitely kind of plan on doing more in the future, and just in general kind of little offshoots. So like we said, it's a detour, so it's not our usual, but every now and then we may swerve off the path.
And with that said, hope you enjoyed this little detour. Join us next week for our regular scheduled Haddonfield Horror episode. But until then, good night. Haddonfield Horror's Detours is produced by Tawan Griffith. Edited by Mark Smart. Cover art by Squid Ink. And theme music by Olga Muzora. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram at Haddonfield_pod. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. Haddonfield Horror's Detours is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?